Star Wars figures. R2-D2. Chewbacca, Luke, and Princess Leia. They're the Star Wars Early Bird set of figures. These action figures are not yet available, but this Star Wars Early Bird certificate package is in stores with this colorful Star Wars picture display stand and certificate to send in to get a set of figures by mail. They'll be sent to you at home between February 1st and June 1st. The Star Wars Early Bird certificate package, new from Kenner.
Hello there. Let's talk about Star Wars in the cultural artifact sense. It was deliberately built to reflect archetypical storytelling from cultures all around the world, to capture as many imaginations as possible, and thenceforth sell as many toys as possible, with which as many people as possible would act out this newly constructed mythology. Now, that isn't to say that Star Wars is bad, actually. I think despite how cynical we could be about its profiteering origins, there is so much love and deep-seated reflections of cultural mythology within the franchise that it makes Star Wars kind of good, actually. That's not to say that you could or should be convinced to like Star Wars if you don't already, but it's worth pointing out that even when it's on accident, the galaxy far, far away of Star Wars is an amazing and accessible allegory for how real-life colonial imperialism, capitalism, and fascism has persisted for centuries, particularly in the guise of democracy. Let's take a deep dive into the politics of Star Wars. The prequel trilogy, mostly. There's no way I could cover all of Star Wars in one video. A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away. This galaxy, to be precise. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of the prequel trilogy, but George Lucas does choose to show us some interesting political subtext in them, and that is made quite clear when we look at the 3 planets which set the stage for Episode 1, Coruscant, Naboo, and Tatooine. Each is in a different region of the galaxy, the core worlds, the mid-rim, and the outer rim, and each has a different socio-economic class. Coruscant, as its name suggests, is one of the core worlds, and is one of the most wealthy planets, and the most politically powerful planet. It is the capital of the Galactic Republic, where representatives from the participating planetary systems and corporate conglomerates have seats in the Galactic Republic's governing body, the Galactic Senate. Now, the Galactic Republic was formed thousands of years ago on Coruscant with the help of a broader religious organization of warrior monks called the Jedi Order. By the start of the movies, the Jedi have moved their own headquarters to Coruscant as well, and are relied on for the defense of the Republic, which is usually ideologically peaceful, and so usually does not have a standing army. The Jedi are legally independent from the Galactic Republic's government structure, but are also financially maintained through taxed public funds from the Republic's overall population, serving not only as military, but diplomats and ambassadors as the de facto enforcers for what passes as peace and justice in the Republic's territory. And a critical thing about Coruscant is that even though it is the most powerful economy in the galaxy, that wealth is still only shared by the relatively few who literally live at the top, above endless levels of urban corruption and poverty, where crime runs rampant, enough to make Coruscant actually one of the most dangerous places in the galaxy. Coruscant represents not just the center of civilization, but the very fundamental essence of city-building, power-building culture. It is the very heart of the thing that civilizes. Coruscant is also supposedly the birthplace of humanity, according to the lore. And in its territory is our next planet, a moderately wealthy and tax-paying member of the Republic, in the Mid-Rim, called Naboo. Naboo is an interesting place in the Mid-Rim, with a lot going on. Hundreds of years before, Naboo was colonized by humans, which came from one of the core worlds, and by now, the amphibious indigenous Gungans of the world pretty much all live in hiding underwater, out of fear and mistrust for the humans who have built a relatively prosperous, democratic monarchy here, which exports goods from the planetary system into the galactic economy, but has been historically pretty isolationist, which isn't just a footnote in the lore, it's shown in Naboo's capital population being all humans, which is really weird in Star Wars. And we even learned this prosperity is built at least in part on spice mining from one of their moons, spice being a highly valued mineral usually used for an illegal narcotic, which we specifically are given reasons to believe is extracted through questionable working conditions.
Do you have any idea who is behind this attack?
Our intelligence points to disgruntled spice miners on the moons of Naboo.
So, at least according to what we're shown in the movies, Naboo is specifically a centuries-old colonial state administering over and profiting from stolen land and probably some sketchy intergalactic drug money too. The third planet we are shown is Tatooine in the Outer Rim. It also has an indigenous population who hates the colonizers, the nomadic Tusken Raiders, who live symbiotically with the Banthas and have survived and thrived in their own ways for thousands of years, successfully keeping the deserts dangerous for settlers in all that time. But there are settlements here, some of them even fairly old and well established by now, thriving. Through Tatooine, we learned that the Outer Rim worlds are generally the most disenfranchised. Massive corporate powers and black market gangsters reign supreme, enforced through the use of private mercenary groups, gangs, etc. Even slavery is dreadfully common.
I can't believe there's still slavery in the galaxy. The Republic's anti-slavery laws are...
The Republic doesn't exist out here. We must survive on our own.
But, if we really pay attention, it's not because Tatooine is out of reach of the Republic, it's just not a direct interest to them. It's a desert with no valuable resources worth the trouble, but also it benefits them to not care? See, this sort of inhospitable place is also a popular destination for people who want to just get away from the civilizing grasp of the Republic for whatever reason. Sometimes you just want to live on your own on a moisture farm without the Republic's boot on your neck, you know? Or sometimes you're a fugitive from the Republic's judiciaries for whatever reasons. And sometimes you're inspired to participate in Republic cultural expansion through expensive campaigns aimed to decrease the financial strain on public services in the most densely populated regions, using Republic navigational beacons that were still often built outside of their official territory. Or sometimes, and this is the important part, you want to profit from illegal business practices outside of Republic territory and to pay less taxes while doing it. So, at the start of these movies, 2 Jedi are sent from Coruscant to Naboo at the personal request of the current Supreme Chancellor, the head position of the Senate's governing body, to investigate and diplomatically resolve an armed blockade established by the Trade Federation, one of those corporate conglomerates which are so powerful they have their own seat in the Republic Senate. The Trade Federation has been trying to monopolize trade in the outlying non-republic systems. We see that they are working with a shadowy figure to use this blockade in order to force political support from Naboo for a free trade agreement that would allow them to pay less taxes for business conducted in the poorer regions of the galaxy. Now look, I know taxes aren't the most exciting part about Star Wars, but they're pretty important to what's actually interesting about the story of the prequel trilogy, and to me, why it's a shame that these aren't better movies.
It's not fair.
See, most if not all the corporations abusing and profiting the most from the lawlessness of places like Tatooine are directly part of or working with trade conglomerates like the Trade Federation. The Trade Federation, being very wealthy, pays at least considerable taxes to the Republic since they are based in or at least doing business in Republic territory. But, up till now, they had a free trade agreement with the Republic, where they didn't have to pay taxes on transactions conducted in the free trade zones, like the one where Tatooine is. So, the Republic benefited from the Trade Federation's sketchy but lucrative business practices, but it had just always been in a sort of don't ask, don't tell kind of way. Until new and controversial tax laws were approved, which basically abolished the free trade zones. This wouldn't just force companies like the Trade Federation to pay more taxes, it would theoretically slow down their attempted monopolization of the Outer Rim trade, and to some degree make them technically more accountable for their practices in non-Republic territories. So, the shadowy figure says to the Trade Federation, well, since the Jedi are there, you should go ahead and accelerate our secret plans, I guess. Do an armed occupation of Naboo, and we'll force a treaty from them, which makes the occupation legal in the eyes of the Republic. The twist is, this shadowy figure is actually from Naboo. In fact, he's Naboo's representative in the Galactic Senate, old rich white guy politician extraordinaire Sheev Palpatine, or Darth Sidious depending on what he's wearing at the time. So, Queen Padme Amidala of Naboo successfully flees the planet with the aid of the 2 Jedi, to personally request help from the Senate on Coruscant. The head representative of the Senate, Supreme Chancellor Valorum, appears supportive, but Palpatine explains to Padme that there is no way Valorum can cut through the bureaucracy of the Senate in any sort of timely manner. He suggests to Padme that she elect to get rid of the current Supreme Chancellor, so that someone stronger can make the Republic great again by taking control of the corrupt and weak bureaucracy, and in the meantime he says to, regrettably, accept the unavoidable occupation of the Trade Federation for the time being. Padme Amidala is brilliantly skeptical, especially in Episode 1. But when she sees for herself how easily the bureaucratic process is able to tie Chancellor Valorum's hands, Padme does indeed officially motion to depose the Supreme Chancellor, successfully. But she refuses to accept the occupation and goes back to resist it without the aid of the Republic. And so, thanks to some diplomatic negotiations, the humans and Gungans of Naboo team up to fight off the Trade Federation with some help from the Jedi. And they foil the Trade Federation's plans, but Palpatine has actually succeeded in his own real goals, clearing the path to becoming Supreme Chancellor of the Senate and discrediting the Galactic Republic, who, in the face of the crisis of Naboo, didn't manage to help at all because they were too way down in bureaucracy and litigation and had no way to effectively address the situation. The Senate couldn't even decide if the allegations of the blockade were legal or not. But to be fair to Qui-Gon Jinn, may he be one with the Force, the Jedi definitely at least keep Naboo's monarch and specifically these people from getting mauled. But the Jedi were not the ones who defeated the Trade Federation's occupation, or destroyed their blockade. The new Gungan-Human alliance of Naboo did that. At least in the eyes of the people who matter, the general public of the Galactic Republic, who was not saying, gee, it's great that the Republic sent those 2 Jedi who saved the monarch and freed one Outer Rim slave child on a totally different planet.
Now this is pod racing.
No, they were saying, as Palpatine had hoped, geez, maybe the Republic is actually useless at best in its current state. And they weren't wrong. So then, Palpatine gets voted in as the new Supreme Chancellor, and he spends years of off-screen time politically grooming the ex-slave Jedi child, the young but still brilliantly skeptical Padme Amidala, and a Gungan war hero, whom he props up into a position of political power, and, in secret, he orchestrates the possession of a massive clone army for the Republic, which is being built secretly pretty far away from the plot of the films themselves.
I have successfully made contact with the Prime Minister of Kamino. They are using a bounty hunter named Jango Fett to create a clone army. I have a strong feeling that this bounty hunter is the assassin we're looking for. They say Master Cyber D has placed an order for a clone army at the request of the Senate almost 10 years ago. I was under the impression he was killed before that. Did the Council ever authorize the creation of a clone army?
No. Do you think these cloners are involved in the plot?
No, Master.
But also, he is secretly working with others, especially his secret apprentice, former Jedi and public rich political figure Count Dooku. Dooku works to generate dissent against the Republic, particularly interest in leaving the Republic. This turns out to be a very popular political movement, and in a few years, with the secret aid of the new Supreme Chancellor, Dooku publicly denounces the Republic as a feudal enterprise hopelessly burdened by corruption and favoritism towards the core worlds. Again, he's not wrong. So he founds the Confederacy of Independent Systems, which he claims will be a more fair governmental system which is open to all. A lot of worlds decide to join in with this, and the Republic panics and condemns the secessionists, directs negotiations at them, and even levies sanctions against them, but this only convinced more systems to back out of the Republic and join the Confederacy. Soon, the Republic was facing a serious crisis, as their core worlds had grown dependent on food, manufacturing, and raw materials from many of the worlds who were now backing out of the Republic. So as a response, some senators advocated for a new Military Creation Act, which would enable the Republic to organize a military force to defend the Republic from the threat of people leaving it. This is a real thing that happens, though, all the time. So other senators, such as Padme, oppose the bill because, they don't want a full-blown galactic civil war. But then, Jedi Knight Obi-Wan Kenobi, on his way back to the plot, discovers an army of battle droids being created for the Separatists and reports his finding to the Republic before being captured. Since the infamous bloated bureaucracy of the Republic meant that senators could not authorize the creation of a military on their own before the Separatists could potentially stage an attack on the Republic, the Gungan war hero calls on the Senate to grant emergency powers to the Supreme Chancellor, giving him special legal authority for the duration of the crisis so he can resolve it. The Senate, for the most part, enthusiastically supports the proposal. Palpatine immediately announces the formation of a new Grand Army of the Republic, which is to be led by the theoretically noble and capable Jedi. And since one of them had just been captured while snooping around the Separatist battle droid factory, the Clone Army's first mission was a rescue mission of Obi-Wan / an assault on the droid army facility. Thus begins years of long, brightly colored, pew-pew-filled Clone Wars conflict. But the important thing is, the Clone Wars aren't a fight between the good planets and the bad planets. It's a brutal civil war where the people who are fighting or otherwise suffering the most are all doing it because of the machinations of a few, the rich and the powerful. Several massive corporate powers, like the Trade Federation from earlier, are explicitly shown to have been secretly backing Dooku's formation of the Confederacy, and the leaders of these organizations even become the official leadership council for the new government. But in intergalactic capitalism, these powers mean financial security for some people, even though they also mean exploitation and ruin for others. This is true for both sides of the war. So over the course of the war, Palpatine uses his position to give himself more power. He also appoints the young ex-slave Anakin Skywalker as his representative in the Jedi's Leadership Council. Very late, the Jedi realize that Palpatine is bad, actually, and try to arrest him. But Palpatine has gotten into everything, which out of context sounds kind of weird, I guess. But he successfully carried out what we here on Earth in this day and age call Caesarism, which is a political philosophy inspired by the career of Julius Caesar and famously espoused by people like the French Emperor Napoleon, the Italian fascist Mussolini, and the Spanish fascist Francisco Franco. It's a political process which involves using militarism to centralize authoritarian power into an autocratic system where a single person gains control of all activities of the state, even if it was supposed to be a republic or a democracy. So then, he orders the clone army to kill their commanding Jedi, and he finishes indoctrinating Anakin as his own fascist enforcer, renaming him Darth Vader. He sets up the CIS leadership for a meeting and then has Darth Vader assassinate them all at once, meaning a sudden and swift victory against the Separatists and the Jedi who dared oppose Palpatine's very popular rule. So he becomes even more popular, and therefore more powerful. Palpatine names himself Emperor to the massive applause of the Senate, with the exception of a handful of dismayed liberal politicians who thought they could use the system to resolve its own corruption and warfare. In fact, they're still going to try for a while, and that's how the Galactic Republic becomes the Galactic Empire. So, what have we learned from all this? Or rather, what can the prequel trilogy teach us? Well, for one, that capitalism is an inherently corrupting force in social politics, and this isn't like some far-fetched, reaching for Marxism interpretation. I don't think it's a coincidence that the release of Star Wars Episode II Attack of the Clones meant lots of kids were playing with toys of bankers, aristocrats, and duplicitous politicians, who are all clearly portrayed as evil in such a way even little kids can understand, even if they don't understand why. And obviously, Palpatine is the big bad of the series, and it's because he's a Sith or whatever. But his rise to power isn't really about the fact that he's a Sith. It's about exploiting the weaknesses of both the state and capitalism. Like, maybe having one centralized system of government which extends its economic influence over as much territory as possible isn't actually a sustainable way to live, and is prone to having the best intentioned people actually facilitate what all too often ends up becoming a fascist hellscape dystopia. And I mean, geez, I had a toy of Palpatine as a kid, right? And most of the Episode 1 toys at the time came with this little plastic dog tag stand thing. And if you bought this oversized Jedi communicator toy, you could put the chips over it and have them say a few quotes from the movie in really bad quality. So the main quote I always remembered was one of Senator Palpatine's. I don't know why, but I guess it stood out the most to me, because at the time, Star Wars to me was about cool aliens, the Force, spaceships, lightsabers, and openly combating blatant oppression. But this line they digitized for Palpatine was,
"The Republic is not what it once was."
And today? Well, today I know more, and that phrase hits a little bit different. There are other political things you can learn from the story of these films that I haven't brought up, but most of it is character specific, which is kind of what ruins the movies. Like how nobody really listens to Padme, even though she is easily the smartest person in any of the movies, which reeks of patriarchy. Or how anyone can become a fascist, and if you don't pay attention to the signs and address them, it could cost you your life. Like also what happens to Padme, and Obi-Wan Kenobi. But in the end, if you're just going to get one lesson from the Star Wars prequels, I hope it's the critical lens George Lucas seems to have applied to class struggle in the face of capitalism and centralized government, which he tried to make fun for kids. Anyway, that's all for this video. I'll be back soon with some real history, but also with some more Star Wars, and also some other fun things, like, I don't know, Halo and Star Trek or something. You can support my work at patreon.com/autonomousmedia. Please subscribe, I really need all the support that I can get. Huge thank you to my patrons, Albert, Kaylin, Bambi, Shelly, Sandra, Sarah, Matthew, Zach, and Frank. Holy God. Like, seriously, y'all are amazing. Thank you so much. I promise I will put your support to good use. Until next time, I'm Phoenix Godwin. Stay safe, stay dangerous, look out for each other, and may the Force be with you.